Think about how connected we are with animals. I mean, from our food to our pets at home. It's huge.
Right, absolutely. It's a global thing.
And today, we're diving into this really interesting report about the global animal healthcare market, specifically looking at 2025.
Exactly. We've got a detailed analysis here. It gives us a snapshot for 2025, but also, projects where things are headed.
So our mission, if you will, is to really boil this down for you, get the key insights, the big numbers, and what's actually driving this whole sector.
Precisely. We want to give you a concise but thorough understanding.
Okay, so straight off the bat, the headline figure, it's big. For 2025, the prediction is USD 63,924.5 million globally.
That's a significant number already, but the really striking part is the forecast.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, it's projected to shoot up to almost USD 149,453 million by 2033. That's huge growth.
Wow, okay. And the growth rate?
That translates to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of 11.2%. Pretty impressive.
11.2%. That's substantial. Yeah. What's the main engine behind that kind of expansion?
Well, the report really points to one major factor: the continuous rise in pet adoption. More pets mean more focus on their health. Simple as that, really.
Makes sense. People are really investing in their animal companions.
They are. And this report gives us a solid base. It uses historical data from 2021, 2024, the estimate for 2025, and then that forecast out to 2033. So it's comprehensive.
Right. A good time frame. Okay, let's get into the regions then, because I imagine it's not the same everywhere. North America seems to be out front.
That's right. For 2025, North America is expected to hold the largest share. We're talking over 40% of the global market.
40%. And the value?
That's estimated at USD 23,652.07 million for 2025. And they're still growing steadily, a CAGR of 9.6% predicted through to 2033.
So still strong growth, even from that high base. What makes North America so dominant?
Well, you've got, established veterinary infrastructure, very high levels of pet ownership compared to some other regions, and a general willingness to spend on animal health.
Okay, and within North America.
Yeah.
The U.S. must be a huge part of that.
Oh, absolutely. The U.S. market alone is projected at USD 18,661.48 million in 2025. That's the lion's share.
And its growth rate?
A solid 9.4% CAGR. The report flags technological innovation as a key driver there.
Right. Things like better diagnostics, maybe. More advanced treatments?
Exactly that. More sophisticated tools for vets, more targeted therapies. It sort of mirrors trends in human healthcare, actually, like personalized medicine, but for animals.
Interesting. Now, Canada's smaller, obviously.
Yeah.
About USD 2.8 billion in 2025.
Yes, USD 2,838.25 million. But its growth rate is projected a bit higher, actually, at 10.4% CAGR.
Okay, 10.4%. Now, here's where the report throws a bit of a curveball, doesn't it? Linking Canada's growth to high-performance batteries.
Yeah, that one's a bit less direct, isn't it?
How do we square that? Batteries and pet health.
Well, the thinking might be indirect. Like a booming battery sector could mean a stronger overall Canadian economy.
Ah, okay, so more disposable income.
Exactly. More economic activity, maybe higher wages, more disposable income, which then means people potentially have more to spend on things like, premium pet care. It's about the economic backdrop enabling spending.
Right. Okay, that makes a bit more sense as an indirect link. And Mexico?
Mexico's projected at USD 2,152.34 million for 2025, with a good CAGR too, 10.1%. So strong growth across the board in North America.
So if we summarize the drivers for North America as a whole?
It's really a combination. High pet ownership is key. Growing demand for quality vet care, those technological advancements we mentioned, plus a general focus on animal well-being and preventive care. And then you also have the livestock sector contributing, R&D investment, more clinics opening up, and even pet insurance becoming more common. It all adds up.
Okay. Comprehensive picture there. Let's hop across the Atlantic to Europe. They're a big player too, right?
Definitely. Over 30% of the global market share in 2025. That's estimated at USD 18,538.11 million.
And our growth.
Actually projected to be even faster than North America's, a AGR of 12.9%.
Wow, 12.9%. What's pushing that growth in Europe?
Again, a mix of factors. Progress in animal drugs, pharmaceuticals, and better diagnostics are really important there.
Okay.
There's also that growing awareness of pet well-being, similar to North America. And like North America, the expansion of livestock farming is also a significant factor.
Let's look at a couple of key countries. The UK.
The UK market is estimated around USD 3.1 billion for 2025, with an 11.0% CAGR.
Okay, strong growth. And here we go again with a slightly odd link. Electric vehicles. What's the connection there?
Yeah, it's similar logic perhaps to the Canadian battery point. It might signal a wider consumer shift.
How so?
While maybe people adopting EVs are also more generally focused on, say, sustainability or ethical consumption, and perhaps that mindset extends to how they view pet care, wanting higher quality, maybe more natural or advanced options, and being willing to spend on it.
Interesting theory. It's about correlating consumer trends, maybe. What about Germany? Another
Yeah.
big one.
Germany's projected even larger than the UK at about USD 3.67 billion in 2025, with a 10.4% AGR. The report highlights advanced technologies being adopted there.
Technologies like.
Well, Germany has a strong tech and engineering base, right?
Yeah.
So probably things like advanced imaging, maybe robotic-assisted surgery in some specialized clinics, use of data analytics for herd health management on farms, that kind of thing.
Right. And the report lists quite a few other European countries: France, Italy, Russia, Spain, the Nordics, Switzerland, all contributing. The growth rates vary a bit, though.
They do. But some common themes emerge across Europe.
Such as.
Government initiatives are quite strong in Europe, especially around vaccinations and disease control, partly due to concerns about zoonotic diseases, those that can pass between animals and humans.
Ah, yes, that's a big concern.
Definitely. Plus, Europe often has stricter regulations on animal health and welfare, which drives investment. And we're seeing more adoption of things like telemedicine for vet consultations and precision medicine approaches even for animals.
Okay, that makes sense for Europe. Now let's shift to the region everyone's talking about for growth, Asia Pacific.
Right, APAC. They hold about 23% market share in 2025, so smaller than North America or Europe currently.
Built to growth.
Exactly. The market size is around USD 15.3 billion for 2025, but the projected CAGR is 14.0%. That's the fastest globally.
14%. What is fueling that boom?
It's really a confluence of factors in APAC. Rising pet ownership is huge, just like elsewhere, but it's perhaps starting from a lower base and growing faster.
Mm-hmm.
And critically, there's also a massive increase in livestock production. Think about the demand for meat and dairy in rapidly developing economies there. That requires significant investment in animal health.
China must be a massive part of the APAC story.
Absolutely enormous. Projected at USD 6.4 billion in 2025 with a 13.5% CAGR.
And the report links China's growth partly to zoonotic diseases again.
Yes, that's flagged as a key concern and driver. With dense populations and intensive farming, managing disease spread is critical. It pushes demand for vaccines, diagnostics, biosecurity measures.
Makes sense. What about India? Another giant population-wise.
India's market is smaller currently, about USD 1.5 billion in 2025, but look at the growth rate. A projected CGR of 15.9%.
15.9. That's incredible.
Right.
And that's linked mainly to pets.
Yes, the report directly ties it to rising pet ownership. As disposable incomes rise in India, more families are bringing pets into their homes and, crucially, are able to spend more on their care.
Right. The disposable income factor is key.
It really unlocks that spending potential.
And we also have Japan, South Korea, Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, Southeast Asia, all showing strong double-digit KGRs, mostly between 12.5% and, wow, 14.8% for Southeast Asia.
Yeah, the whole region is incredibly dynamic.
So the drivers across APAC seem quite diverse.
They are. You've got the pet boom, the livestock intensification, and just a general growing awareness and value placed on animal health. Governments are stepping up initiatives too.
And technology, infrastructure.
Both are improving. Veterinary tech is becoming more available. The number of clinics is growing. Add rising incomes, plus specific focus sometimes on things like nutritional supplements and preventive care, and you get that really strong growth picture.
Okay, fascinating region. Let's move to South America. Smaller share, but still growing well.
Yes, over 5% market share in 2025, valued at around USD 2.4 billion, and the CGR is strong too, 11.9%.
So still above the global average growth. What's the story there?
Again, some similar themes. Increasing pet ownership is a factor, a very important livestock sector in many South American countries. Growing awareness about animal health and veterinary medicine is advancing there too.
Brazil is the biggest market.
By quite a margin. Projected at over USD 1 billion in 2025 with a 12.5% CAGR, the report specifically mentions the companion animal sector booming there.
Why are pets becoming so popular in Brazil, do you think?
It could be urbanization, changing family structures, maybe a greater appreciation for the emotional benefits pets bring, and like India, potentially rising incomes allowing more people to afford vet care.
Right. And Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile are also mentioned. What are the general drivers across South America?
Government programs supporting animal health are important. Investment in vaccines and diagnostics is happening. There's strong demand for quality animal products, both locally and for export.
And zoonotic diseases, pet insurance.
Yes, concerns about zoonoses play a role. Pet insurance is slowly gaining traction, and generally you're seeing improvements in vet infrastructure and the adoption of some new technologies.
Okay. Now, the Middle East, relatively small market share, around 2%.
That's right, around USD 2.5 billion projected for 2025. But again, look at the growth, a strong CGR of 12.5%.
So punching above its weight in terms of growth rate, what's happening there?
It's an interesting mix. Pet ownership is increasing, especially in the wealthier Gulf states and urban areas. There's definitely growing awareness about animal welfare. Plus, there's a significant focus on expanding domestic livestock production for food security reasons in many countries. That requires investment in animal health.
Saudi Arabia leads the way, followed by UAE, Turkey.
Yes, all showing strong growth. The report even calls out specific things like tech innovation in diagnostics in Qatar and investment in cutting-edge tech in Turkey. That suggests a real push towards modernization.
So beyond pets and livestock.
Government support for vet services is key. Stricter regulations are being implemented, and the push to grow the local meat and dairy industries inherently drives demand for healthcare products to ensure animal productivity and safety.
Right. Lastly, Africa, smallest share, about 1%.
Yes, around USD 1.4 billion estimated for 2025, but still growing healthily with a projected CAGR of 11.5%.
Still double-digit growth. What are the dynamics in Africa?
Africa has huge potential, but also faces challenges. Livestock production is absolutely vital for livelihoods and food security across the continent, so that's a major driver.
And pets.
Pet ownership is rising, but perhaps more slowly and concentrated in certain urban areas compared to other regions. Government initiatives focusing on animal health, often tied to agriculture, are important too.
South Africa is the largest market.
Yes, followed by Nigeria and then the rest of the continent grouped together. The report notes rising awareness of animal well-being in Nigeria, which is a positive sign.
So what else is driving growth in Africa?
Well, increased understanding of zoonotic disease risks is a factor. Basic veterinary care infrastructure is slowly improving. The overall expansion of agribusiness helps too.
But there are hurdles.
Definitely. Access to quality veterinary medicines can be limited in many areas. And unfortunately, counterfeit drugs can be a real problem, undermining effective treatment and animal health.
Okay, that's a really helpful tour around the globe. Let's switch gears now and look at the product segments. Vaccines are expected to dominate.
That seems likely, yes. With the huge global livestock population and the increasing focus on preventing diseases, especially those zoonotic ones we keep mentioning, vaccines are fundamental.
And technology helps there too.
Absolutely. We're seeing advancements making vaccines more effective, maybe longer lasting, or easier to deliver, especially on a large scale for livestock. Plus, the general trend towards preventive healthcare boosts vaccine demand for pets too.
But interestingly, the report says pharmaceuticals are the fastest growing segment. Why is that?
It suggests that while prevention is key, there's also a growing need and willingness to treat animal diseases with more advanced therapies when they do occur.
So better drugs, basically.
Yes, and more sophisticated diagnostics to pinpoint problems accurately. As veterinary medicine advances, and as pet owners especially demand higher levels of care, the market for effective pharmaceuticals expands rapidly. Think treatments for chronic conditions, pain management, anti-infectives, etc.
Got it. Now let's look at the animals themselves. Companion animals hold the biggest market share. No huge surprise there.
Not at all, given everything we've said about rising pet ownership globally. As pets become, integrated family members, spending on their health just naturally increases.
Covering everything from checkups to...
Right, routine stuff like parasite control, vaccinations, but also more complex surgeries, treatments for ongoing conditions like diabetes or arthritis, and even wellness products, special diets, supplements. It's a broad category.
But the production animals segment, cattle, poultry, pigs, etc., is also expanding rapidly.
Yes, and that's driven by that relentless global demand for protein. To meet that demand efficiently and safely, producers need to maximize animal health and productivity.
Which means more focus on.
Disease prevention is huge in livestock. An outbreak can be devastating. So vaccines, biosecurity measures, but also treatments to improve growth rates, feed efficiency, reproductive health. Technology like data monitoring for herd health is also becoming more common.
Okay, we've talked Regions, products, animals. What about the really big, overarching global drivers the report points to?
Well, one interesting trend is the growth of online veterinary pharmacies. Makes getting medications and supplies easier, more convenient.
Right, e-commerce hitting every sector.
Pretty much. Another key driver is just the overall increase in how much society is willing to spend on animal health care, reflecting that greater value placed on animals.
And AI.
Yes, artificial intelligence is flagged as increasingly important. Think AI helping vets diagnose illnesses from images, or identifying patterns in herd health data, maybe even accelerating drug discovery for animal diseases. Lots of potential there.
But it's not all smooth sailing. What about the brakes, the restraints on the market?
The big one is cost. Advanced veterinary drugs and treatments can be very expensive. That's a barrier for some pet owners, and definitely for livestock producers operating on tight margins.
Especially in certain economies.
Exactly. The report specifically notes that in many developing countries, the average out-of-pocket spending on pet healthcare is still quite low, limiting the market potential somewhat.
Okay. And the major global trends to watch.
Well, building on what we've said, that rising awareness of animal health and welfare is a fundamental trend. It shapes consumer demand and even regulations.
Right.
And linked to that is increased investment in research and development. Companies are pouring more money into finding new solutions, new drugs, better vaccines, which obviously fuels market growth down the line.
Finally, the competitive side. Who are the big fish in this pond?
It's quite concentrated at the top, actually. The report mentions major global players like Zoetis, Elanco Animal Health, Merck Animal Health, which is part of Merck & Co., IDXX Laboratories, especially strong in diagnostics, and Boehringer Ingelheim.
Household names, some of them, at least in the industry.
Definitely. They have broad portfolios, global reach, and significant R&D muscle.
And the report gave a couple of recent examples of what these companies are up to.
Yeah, just to illustrate the ongoing activity. Dechra, another significant player, launched a new injectable for bovine respiratory disease back in January 2024, shows ongoing product development for livestock.
Okay.
And Merck Animal Health just recently, July 2024, completed its acquisition of Elanco's aquaculture business. That's fish farming health.
Ah, interesting. Shows strategic moves to capture growing segments like aquaculture.
Exactly. Consolidation and specialization are part of the competitive dynamic.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've really covered a lot of ground on the global animal healthcare market. The big takeaway seems to be significant, sustained growth.
Definitely. Driven fundamentally by more pets, a greater focus on their well-being, and the ever-present need to keep livestock healthy for food production.
We've seen North America and Europe as the current leaders in market size, but APAC is where the really explosive growth is happening.
And each region has its own blend of drivers, from tech adoption to disease concerns to rising incomes.
Vaccines are dominant now, but pharmaceuticals are growing fastest. And while companion animals are the biggest segment by value, production animals are crucial and expanding rapidly too.
That's a good summary. The drivers like online pharmacies and AI and restraints like cost add more layers to the picture.
And that 2025 market size, nearly USD 64 billion, really anchors how important this industry is today.
It's a massive global sector.
So as we look ahead, here's something for you, the listener, to think about. Considering all these trends, what might be the unexpected game changers or the big ethical questions that could shape animal healthcare beyond 2033? Something to mull over.